MicroMacro Kids, Castel Boom, and Scrubs. This is Staying In.
I've got a new lawnmower.
Oh, nice. So we all know the different types of lawnmower one can get, don't we?
Yes.
There's electric, there's fuel, and there's hand.
But 21st century, Dan, there's also robot.
Oh, there is robot as well, yes.
And sit on, which I know is not a 21st century thing, but I know Sam's got a big garden in his new house.
I don't think it's that big.
A sit-on lawnmower might have been on the cards.
It may have been, possibly, but no.
So yeah, this is the time of year where my YouTube feed fills up with videos of my lawn. Well, not my personal lawn. That would be weird.
That'd be weird, wouldn't it?
That'd be very strange.
That would be weird.
Here I am.
Every year,
lawn.
drones come and land
Welcome
in my
to
garden.
Dan Watch.
It fills up with all the videos about how to save your lawn, all of the different lawn care techniques.
Save
and stuff
your
like
lawn.
That. Yeah. My lawn needs saving. It's more moss.
If
than
you
lawn.
pledge £2 a month,
I love that sort of blitz spirit that pervades modern gardening, where it feels like, your lawn is under attack and, you must fend off the weeds. But yes, my lawn has met its match with my brand new lawnmower. Well, it's secondhand and it's brought to me by my dad. So it's,
So your brand new lawnmower is your dad's old lawnmower.
hang on, your dad doesn't live where you live, so if this is a big lawnmower, did he drive it here?
He did, with the windows up and the petrol fuming.
Maybe it was a sit-on mower, Chris.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Up the M6.
Basically, we were left with a defunct lawnmower when we bought the new house. They left us a lawnmower and it just didn't work. We couldn't get it to work. And then I was effectively ghosted by a lawnmower repair company who said they would come and fix it, and then
That's
they didn't.
bad, isn't it?
Then they didn't come and fix it, and then when I've asked them if they could come and fix it, they've just not replied to any of my messages.
Gosh.
How good was the lawnmower that it was worth fixing as opposed to replacing? Like, was it like a top of the range one?
Not to virtual signal too much about the size of my new lawn, but it was either use my current electric lawnmower and the size of that lawnmower, the size of my garden and the size of the battery that I had for it, it probably would take me probably about 4 days to cut the lawn. So I knew that we would have to go petrol. Well, I kind of thought we'll stick with petrol for now because it's a petrol lawnmower that they've left us. So let's just use this for a few years before we can save up to get another new lawnmower. Because if you want to get something at a decent size, you're talking like 400 or 500 quid, right? For a good lawnmower for a big garden. And I have got a big garden. So
we cannot understate that enough.
No. So the servicing was 100 quid, right? So I was like, spend 100 quid now. That's going to save me 400 or 500 quid in the future. But the company decided that they didn't want my business and they weren't brave enough to say no. So they just ignored me.
But Sam's not brave enough to name and shame here on the podcast. Get the word out.
No, I'm not going to name and shame because they're probably very busy and don't know how to use WhatsApp. So my dad, knowing this, knowing my plight, he's a very nice chap, but he loves a lawnmower, and I think he personally wanted to do a little bit of lawnmower shopping. So he got to vicariously live his lawnmower shopping dreams through me and brought me up a new lawnmower, and it's petrol, it's lovely, it's noisy, it goes on its own, which is the weirdest thing because you kind of just like it's huge and it's heavy, so you can't, like, with an electric lawnmower it's almost like you're hoovering the lawn, like it's just light, you just push it forward and back, you're just like sweeping it all over the place, like it's easy. But this just like it's like moving a tanker around the garden. So you have to use the mode that like it propels forward and you just push the mechanism forward and it just shoots off. It's just like, I don't know where this is going, but we're mowing today. So that's been good fun over the bank holiday weekend to finally get to mow my brand new lawn. And we've got to have 2 green bins. So we have to have 2 green bin subscriptions. And I hate it.
What do you have to have 2 green bins? Can you not just kind of space it out a bit? Or have you not got enough space
Dan,
just for the cuttings?
Dan, can I just... I don't want to talk about how much lawn I've got, but I've got so much lawn.
Depends on how often you're cutting
space it out? What, do half 1 week?
Maybe just go for a 9-hole course rather than 18 holes. Sam.
But it depends how much you're cutting it.
Oh, it's taken a lot. I did like a very thin sliver off the top, and it filled up one green bin over the bank holiday. So we're in for a ride. And wait till those apples start falling, and then we're really going to need those bins. So it has been a half term. We've made it. We did it. Well done, everyone. While I have been off, enjoying a lovely half term, I've been playing quite a few games with my son, and I thought this would be a nice place to share some of those with you. I've got a couple. Well, there's a few to speak about, but I might save one for another day, because one of them, Dan, is another one of the Choose Your Own Adventure books. I don't know whether we spoke about it on the podcast or we just put something up on our Instagram page, but they're like little like filofaxes that are like little Choose Your Own Adventure stories, like my first Choose Your Own Adventure stories for kids. Yeah. So we've been playing through one of those, and it's been brilliant. But I've got big thoughts about those, so we might talk about that another time. Because the two that have been the standouts during the half term have been one called Castel Boom and another one called, this might sound familiar, MicroMacro Kids Crazy City Park. So should we do Castel Boom first? Because I think MicroMacro is probably one that we're a bit more familiar with.
Yeah.
So we got sent both of these by our lovely friends over at Hachette, and I was very much in the mood to try and put some more board games in front of my son, who's turning 6 later on this year. So it's kind of getting to that cusp now. Like, we're really at core memory territory in terms of really embracing board games. So Castel Boom is a bit of a Google nightmare because Castle is spelt Castel. I don't really understand why. I think it might be a bit of a strange translation. But yeah, it's called Castel Boom, and it is about castles. I don't really understand where the pun has come from. Strangely, designed and illustrated by Marie and Wilfred Fort. So there's a lot going on there.
Determinism.
there's a lot. But Castel Boom is an interesting take on a push your luck, set collection, and dexterity game. So it kind of lands and borrows a lot from things like Rhino Hero and Stomp the Plank, and then even as simple as things like, you know, matching a memory, like puzzle games, a bit like what we did when we played Sandcastles of Burgundy, another great game for kids from Ravensburger. So Castel Boom is really interesting because what you have this lovely board which is made from the box of the game itself, so it's slightly raised off the table. Then around the board you have these several square indentations into which you put these white tiles randomly around it. And then in the middle of that board you have 3 circles. You have a blue circle, a red circle, and a yellow circle. The aim of the game is to be the person with the most money. So what you do on your turn is you take a tile from the outside of the board, you flip it over, and you see what colour it is. It's either going to be red, yellow, or blue. Then you take another tile, and you see what colour that is, hoping that it's going to be the same colour as you just picked up. If it is, you can carry on turning. If it isn't, then you have to stop. And at the point where you stop is the point where you then start building the castle. So depending on how many tiles you've turned over, in which particular colour, you then have to put that many tiers onto the space, the blue space, the red space, or the yellow space. So if you collect 2 tiles, you just take 2 of these little, strangely sort of a thick cardboard, but almost feel like sort of polystyrene.
I know what you mean.
X's, and you put them on top of each other. So you put an X down, put a tile on top, put an X down, put a tile on top, and that's 2 money. That's 2 money for you. Brilliant, fantastic. On to the next player. So the game here is to build quite a lot on your turn. The more you build, the more money that you get. It's also to kind of remember what people have turned over around the board so that you can sort of fudge the stats a little bit. And this is what I kind of liked about it, is that there is it starts off very much as a kind of feeling like a push your luck game, but there's actually a really interesting layer of strategy, especially for a 5-6-year-old, where it comes to actually remembering where tiles have been drawn and then put back. Because, and this is actually my favorite thing about the game, is that all the pieces in the game come pre-constructed, which is brilliant when you're dealing with a 5-6-year-old who just wants to play the game right now. Dad, why don't you know the rules? Come on, get to it. But the thing with this game is that all of these pre-constructed tiers for the castle are all slightly higgledy-piggledy. They're slightly oddly fitted together. Like, they don't tessellate absolutely perfectly. So what that means is there is a limit to how high these towers can go. So as the turns go on, there comes a point where you probably don't want to be building 3 towers high, adding 4 tiers to this other tower, because you can see that certain towers are reaching their limit. Actually, what you want to do is to put a few towers or tiles on the yellow spot, because that's quite low at the minute. So you've got to remember where those tiles are and hope that you don't accidentally turn over more than you want. So then you're adding more tiles than you want to the towers. And I don't know how they've done it, but the tiles themselves that you're adding to build these constructions in the middle, because they don't really sit on top of each other perfectly well, they start to lean and they start to like bend over. And it's fantastic because you kind of get this tableau in the middle as the towers start building up, of these like leaning like towers at the table. So everything feels, even taking a tile from the edge of the board starts feeling really precarious.
What happens if your tower falls over?
If the tower falls over, you get no money. That's the end of your go. You don't have to put the tiles back on to build the tower. It really helps other players because then they've kind of got... Of
course.
And again, that's where that kind of the memory game comes into it, where you kind of like, right, the red tower's just fallen. Where are all the red tiles? Where can I go to actually get what I need? So, yeah, I mean, it's plays up to 4 people, takes about 15 minutes. Age is 6 to up. It's from a publisher called Kiwizou, which, if you are into, like I am, finding games for your kids to play, they're an excellent publisher to become really familiar with. We've spoken about another one of their games on the podcast before, a game called Balladino. But this one, Castel Boom, again, Castel Boom, spelt traditionally. I really enjoyed it because it's got that thing that kids really enjoy in terms of that hubris of building things and then them all coming crashing down. But it's wrapped up in a puzzle that I think just does a little bit more than other games that I've seen on this type. Like Rhino Superhero is just like building a big tower and that's it. Like there's not really much ingenuity or strategy to it. And I'm not saying there has to be, because I think Rhino Hero is its own thing and it's a fantastic game. But it's just nice to start playing a bit more of these games where I'm having to encourage my son to be a bit more like, right, just think, just don't go for like the biggest thing all the time. Think about how you can actually, remember what is around the board to actually increase your chances of winning.
I'm just enjoying the thought of like Hugo wanting to play this game and enjoying them toppling or something like that, and I'm just getting steadily more and more annoyed at, no, you have to follow the rules. There are rules to this.
Well, but the fact is he does follow the rules, but the rules end up getting him to a pickle, right? And it happens in other games like Stomp the Plank, where because he's a 5-year-old and because he's a chaos agent at that age, he just wants to draw cards and draw cards and draw cards and draw cards. But what Castel Boom does is, first of all, it puts a limit on that because it's completely random and you build as much as you've drawn. But unlike with Stomp the Plank, there is a direct correlation between, I've done really well, I've found 5 blue tiles, I'm going to build a 5-high blue tower. There's a direct correlation to actually realising, hang on, maybe that is actually not the best thing that I should have done in this turn, because the tower immediately starts like wobbling and falling over after it even gets like 3 high. Like it's that unstable, but in a really strangely stable way. Like there's a game that I'm thinking of that's kind of come into my head that does something quite similar with that, where it kind of feels like everything should be toppling over. Cards versus Gravity, right?
Oh, of course.
Cards versus Gravity, where you just feel like, how is this thing still standing on? It's a marvel of physics. Castle Boom works in a kind of similar way. Like you just feel like it's always going to topple, so you never quite know which one is going to be the one that sends it over the top, because it has a bit more of a direct feed into, here is an action, here is a consequence, than like other sort of push you luck games or set collection games that I play quite a lot with my son. It really has sort of like really sort of struck a nerve, and really like it gets to the table quite often. It's great.
It must be a really interesting challenge for a game designer to find a game that fits that bill of 5+, where you can find the right amount of mechanics around memory, which is something that a lot of kids up until then have played, like picture pairs, etc. But how that intersects with the dexterity of it all and the push your luck of it, I find that really, really interesting. That intersection of those two different types of game meeting here, really.
Yeah.
Does it feel age appropriate? Have they got it? Have they pitched it right in terms of 5+? You think?
Absolutely. Like from a dexterity point of view, like, you know, in terms of how the board is made and how you interact with it, like the tiles sit on little indentations so they don't get jostled around, but they're easy to pick up and play. The towers that you're building are made of these chunky X-shaped pieces, so really easy to handle and move around and operate and stuff like that. And because you're building it in the box, it really makes a showpiece at the center of the table. So it kind of deals with what I would call the aesthetic things that are important at that age. Like there is just a general like tactility, which is really important at that age, kind of, so that doesn't really feel like it is kind of like moving lots of fiddly things around. Like it's very, very purposeful and dramatic and intentional all on the table. So it really does feel like doing that age appropriate thing. But like we played like loads of games together, and some of them, even though it said like 5 or 6, still feel like we're just memory games or set collection or just building something really high just to then knock it down. Like Minecraft Biomes and Builders Junior kind of felt like very much a precursor to this, because that was just like, turn over a tile, you need a brown thing, get the brown thing off the central mass. And there's a bit of strategy to that, a little bit, there's a bit of dexterity to it, but I think Castle Boom is just, again, just like, I hate to say sort of turning the screw, but you know what I mean? Like it's just really sort of engaging another part.
It's just taking another step up. Like I've talked a lot in the past about whether it's video games or board games, stuff like that. We've talked about things like Outfox in the past, and a lot of these games for younger children, as good as a game can be, so much of that is about introducing techniques and introducing elements of board games that then become a foundational element that you then build upon. So as you say, Minecraft Biomes and Builders, by the sense of it, Castle Boom can build upon things that you've learned from that. And it's not a case of, oh, I did this in Minecraft, so I'll now do this here. But he's understood the element of, okay, you have a card that transponds to a thing that you need to get off the board. And those simple mechanics then build and build and build. So you do, when he comes to something more advanced, he has that level of knowledge in the background that he can now kind of lean on that to be able to pick it up much more easily and not be thrown by it.
Which, when it comes down to it, is everything that you do with a child. Like, but it's just, it feels a bit stranger when you're talking about like set collection and dexterity games, and actually moving them through that sort of world and understanding. But yeah, Castle Boom, it's on the list. It's in the little tower that he's got of games, and we love it. So what can I say about the new lawnmower? It's fantastic. It's a Honda. if you're into your lawnmowers, you know what that means.
Hondas are very reliable.
Oh, Chris, the action on the pull cord is...
And the Peacock's okay with the Landis of it.
Yeah, but the people playing croquet really hate it. So because I can't control it, so it just goes straight into them. But what it does mean though is I now have to go into a petrol station and get my little tank out of my boot to then fill up with petrol.
Your gas can.
My little gas can. And I don't know, there's just something, it just feels slightly naughty, doesn't it? It feels like
does,
you kind of, you know, I don't know
Does it feel
what
like
it is
you're
about
stealing it.
And no, it kind of does in a way. It feels like I shouldn't be allowed. This should only be going in cars. Why are you letting
It feels
me
like you're siphoning off fuel.
Yeah. And it's just like the only time I've ever seen those cans used is when we're being told off for hoarding fuel when there's like a fuel crisis or like now.
But you're driving to the petrol station, aren't you? So you're there in your car as well. You're not just walking in and standing by a pump with no car.
I mean, I could do, couldn't I? That would...
Pump number 3, please.
Just pretending to drive.
You also have to pretend you're in a car as you approach with the can. And then open the door.
Stretch.
I think I'm in good company for this because I've moved into a house recently as well, and my back garden, a part of it is on a slant, like a hill, basically. So I'm trying to work out how best to do that. Do I go up and down over the hill, doing lanes, or do I just go side to side when it's on a slope?
Don't know. How would a robot one cope with that?
Yeah, well, it just wouldn't. It would probably just package itself back up in its box.
To see the hill. I'm not doing that.
No,
thanks. Not for me.
No.
I'm a big fan of the stripes. If you can get a stripe. I worked semi-professionally as a gardener during...
I know you did,
summers. I know, thank you.
And a painter decorator. And an Italian chef.
And, yeah. I've done it. I've done it all.
Isn't the definition of being a professional where you're paid for doing the thing? So how were you a semi-professional gardener? So were you paid for doing the thing, or were you not? Because there's no kind of middle ground between being paid and not being paid.
Because I was never allowed to wield the lawnmower.
You were an observer. You were paid to observe it.
I was paid to do the trimming around the edges and weed the borders, and then the big man came and did the lawns with the lawnmower.
You were a professional amateur gardener.
As a semi-professional gardener. The other game, which I'm not quite sure what it's actually developing or teaching in terms of game mechanics wise, is MicroMacro Kids Crazy City Park.
Now, we spoke about the original version of this back in episode 125.
Wow. It's been a crazy ride from MicroMacro, I have to say, from those early days. I could not tell you how many versions of MicroMacro there are, but there's a lot. How do we sum up MicroMacro for anyone who's never seen it or...
MicroMacro is like a Where's Wally?
Yeah.
But instead of looking for Wally, you're looking for clues to solve a crime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's how I look at it and describe it to someone else if I'm explaining it.
Yeah, you typically see Wally in the present, but in MicroMacro, you're seeing Wally in the past, the present, and kind of the future, all in one page.
And what we mean by that is, whereas Wally is a snapshot in time, MicroMacro somehow, and it's kind of superb how it does this, shows you several moments in a time frame, all on one big piece of paper. That's immaculately drawn in this amazing black and white sketch drawing. And so what you do in MicroMacro typically is you will get cards, you'll get clue cards, and it will ask you to find someone or look for a situation and try and find out what's happened. And some of the basic ones are kind of like Dr. Barnaby has lost his hat. First of all, find Dr. Barnaby. So you look on this map to try and find who it is. And then you trace their path back to see what had happened to their to their house. Oh, they've put it down at the ice cream stand, or some kids have stolen it with a fishing line and hook from a tree. But you can actually see the path that these characters have taken through this snapshot of time to determine what has happened to them, what things have affected them, their journey through the city and whatnot. So in the original MicroMacro, there was a lot of murder. There was a lot of hard edge crime. There were bodies floating in the oceans. There was gangs in cars with guns. I think I remember.
But it was very cute, which was really quite at odds.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the criticisms that was leveled at the time. It's like it very much presented itself as a very cartoonish mystery game, but actually some of the crimes that people were dealing with were very serious. And I think at the time it was criticized because it had a very low sort of age rating to it, and a lot of people felt that it wasn't suitable for that age rating. So in some ways I feel like MicroMacro Kids is a direct response to that, but it is also, I feel like, actually something that is leaning into things that kids absolutely love, which is, whereas Wally is still a massive thing, like hidden search picture games are a massive deal. My son absolutely loves them. I don't know about yours, Dan, but
yeah.
So what MicroMacro Kids does is several things. First of all, in the original MicroMacro, you had like these little cards that you'd have to put into little rice paper bags before you started the game, and they would determine the cases that you'd be doing. There's none of that fiddliness now. It's just a ring binder flip book that you just work your way through. The benefits of doing that, especially with kids, is that it's almost like a bit like a menu now, where you can see on a couple of pages what the mysteries are and how difficult they are. You can either go them in order as they've suggested in the book, or you can go, right, we're going to do a 1-star mystery, or we're going to try a 2-star mystery, or maybe this evening we're going to do 5 stars. So you can kind of portion out the experiences a little bit easier than you could in the previous MicroMacro games. The second thing that they've done is they've provided a lot more ways of interacting with the map. And by that, I mean you just get a whole bag full of these big chunky green discs. So the idea being that, and again, my knowledge of where MicroMacro went after the first edition doesn't exist. So I don't know whether this was included in later editions. But in MicroMacro Kids, you get a whole bag of these green discs, which means that you can put down a green disc. You've got enough of them to mark every single step on a person's journey from A to B. So every time you encounter them on the map, you can put one of these green discs down. So it makes, for a child, it makes tracking that journey to and from to unweave the narrative a lot simpler. And then the third thing that they've done is just make it age appropriate crimes. So it's who stole the carrot.
Yeah.
You know.
Not who embezzled these funds.
Yeah. And it has been and continues to be an absolute hit. I mean, I don't know why I'd expected anything less. Like the fact that we roll this mat out, like either on the table or the floor tends to be the best place that we like to play it. And there is just all these stories hidden in the page from a stimulation point and an imagination point. Like, my son absolutely loves it. I still love it because it is still the puzzles and the mysteries themselves are still intriguing and inviting. I think my one main criticism of it is that my son thinks that the crazy robot did everything. There's this like crazy robot that's running through the city, and he just points to that every time. And it's just like, well, it's a crazy robot that's done it. It's just like, well, let's just follow it through. And like sometimes his imagination runs away with him, and he sees little incidents and ideas and just goes, oh, this cat. Oh, this cat's running away. Yeah, the cat's stolen it. Or, as I said, like the crazy robot's come in and stole it. Or that person who's on a horse has taken it. Like, he will just see things that are happening and build the story up for himself rather than actually what the actual tale it's trying to tell is. But in some ways, I quite like that. I like that too, because it shows that he's really investing in the world that they've drawn.
Because that's a question I wanted to ask, because one of the joys of the original MicroMacro was that Tolkien's Mountains kind of thing, where there was stuff going on the page, because obviously this was a big like map that you'd unfold on the map that was never ever being mentioned at all in any of the cases or in the cards. It was just stuff that was happening incidentally. Yeah. Now I could imagine when designing something for kids, you would perhaps only include stuff that is going to come up in the game and not anything that may feel tangential or not linked to that. Does the board or the map feel as busy as the original?
I've played this as well, and kind of to answer that question, I'd say yes. It's if you didn't look beneath the surface of it in terms of looking at what the cases are, and the kind of those details and some of the extra kind of functionality elements, it looks and it plays just like the MicroMacro that you know and love. So there's no element of that being drawn back at all to make it easier. There is still a challenge there to be searching for all those things. I don't think they've really kind of reduced that at all, outside of making the cases not too difficult. I did play with my he's gone up to 9 now. I personally found them a little too easy for his age. Like, he was flying through them quite quickly, and we weren't getting much of a challenge from that. And I found some of the cases, and I say this knowing that you have to look at the age range it's based at, but I did find some of the cases repetitive in the sense of there was a similar theme to some of the cases repeating themselves in terms of so-and-so has lost their cat, go and find their cat, and now so-and-so has lost their hat, go and find that. And that kind of, there was a similar kind of theme for that. And he kind of got through it relatively quickly. He loved it, he really enjoyed it, but he got through it quite quickly. Now, what we've also played off the back of this, and you talk about kind of MicroMacro going in lots of different directions, we have been playing MicroMacro Downtown Detective, which is the mobile game. And I would say is a flawless representation of what MicroMacro is. It is absolutely fantastic. I've played a little bit of it and thought it was fantastic. So some of the changes they have in this is you have, with the touchscreen, you touch on the certain clues and it'll circle them on the screen. And then in the same way that we've got the little green discs for this MicroMacro Kids, you've got the red circles to kind of highlight where those clues are. I've played a little bit of it, but really my wife, who's not a gamer at all, and my son have been playing it loads. Now, because it's the full scale MicroMacro, it's not the same game as the physical one. It is different cases, but because it's not the kids version, you do have to take into account that some of the crimes, some of the cases in that may be more adult orientated. So kind of, I don't think it's a game that you would give a child to just go ahead and play. I think it is something that you would play with your child as a parent, and then you can manage that, so you know what the case is, so you can then decide whether or not you want to do it or not. And obviously you do still have that element of the artwork itself is that cute aesthetic. So when there is certain crimes, when there is a murder, say, the kind of, it's not gruesome, it's not gory or anything like that, it's not gratuitous, in other words beginning with G. It is just it's like, there's like, you can see some of the advertisements of it. It's like someone on the floor and it's got like a violin bow wrapped around their neck, and obviously they've been strangled with it, but that's what you see. It's quite sedate in that sense. But absolutely, that is something that kind of, as a parent, they should be playing that with their child. But as an adult, that's just still really great fun. And like, they have been absolutely flying through the cases. Like, I think the game is about £10 to kind of buy it all in. I think you get 2 big cities with that. You get a fair few cases with that. And they have, I think in December, they released an expansion for that, which gave you 2 more towns, which are like $3.99. And I don't buy mobile games, and I bought this. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I don't think I've ever bought an expansion for a mobile game, and I bought this. And like, immediately, as soon as I got it, my wife and my son got right back on it, and that's like their favourite thing to do at the moment. We're in half term, they're sat on the sofa and they're playing this game, they're doing a few cases, and it's so much fun for them. I do think that the kids one was a little bit kind of difficulty-wise. He was a bit above that, but that's not, I don't think, a reflection of the game, as it is just him catching it at the wrong point age-wise. Like, my daughter, who similar same age as your son, it's still probably a bit too old for her, because she's not She doesn't have that kind of basic knowledge of games like that, but she will come to that age where she can play it, and then as she gets older, she can play other things. It's one of those things where the MicroMacro game is so good just as a core idea that whether you can easily put it in this kid's environment or you can put it in this digital environment, and every case it seems to be the best version of it. Weirdly, like the original was perfect. The kids one has the ring binder, so it's more accessible. Perfect. The digital version has that ability to scroll around and zoom in and zoom out. Perfect. Every single way of they make it work just seems to work.
Have you heard of a thing called the British Lawnmower Museum?
No, but I'm not surprised.
So, lots of quote-unquote famous people have actually donated things to this lawnmower museum.
When you say things, is it...
Like
when you say
objects, so
famous
it's
people?
lawnmowers, gardening tools, shovels, dibbers, etc. I'm on their website here now. Your donated lawnmower or garden tool in any condition would always be very welcome and restored, and will stand alongside machines and garden implements from Prince Charles... Well, King Charles now. It's been updated. It hasn't been updated in a while. Princess Diana.
Oh my
It really
word.
hasn't
Nicholas
been updated in a while.
Parsons, Alan Titchmarsh, Vanessa Phelps, Joe Pasquale.
You can
Gene
see
Alexander.
you can see a downward trajectory here, can't you?
Brian May, James May, Roger McGough, Alan Pierpoint, Paul O'Grady, Eric Morecambe, Richard and Judy Finnegan,
Brilliant.
Lee Mack, Richard Bacon, and I love this bit, and many more.
They've really got to work on the hierarchy of that list. I'm sorry.
I like the fact that Joe Pasquale made it in there. Who is in the many more? I have to ask. If you're lower down the list than Joe Pasquale.
Sam, this is not too far from you and I. It's in Southport.
Oh my word! Oh, Chris, can we go, please? The only thing that I'm really curious about is how it's all exhibited, because in my head I'm imagining a waxwork of Prince Charles, now king, just holding a trowel, and then Princess Diana's there, in the famous blue dress, but just with a rake, and then Joe Pasquale's there telling a joke, and I don't know, he's got a hoe in the corner or something like that.
I'm on half term, which is great. And I've been using this as the opportunity in my new house to actually unbox stuff that has been in storage for a few months. And one of those things was a Lego model, which I've just finished, that has a total of 3,455 pieces.
So how does that compare to other models that you've...
Well, this is what I want to come on to, Sam, because I was never a big fan of building stuff out of Lego and just having it out on display.
No.
You know how some people put like jigsaw puzzles on the wall, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the process, the build, the assemblage. And a couple of days ago, I finished this thing, which is Neuschwanstein Castle, which for listeners who've been listening to us for a while, it's the place that Sam and Pete and we walked to when we did our big trip to Germany. And it was one of my favourite walks I've ever done, going up and over the hills in Germany, through the forest, and just this castle appears. And it was designed by King Ludwig II, who bears an uncanny resemblance to Dan.
Yes.
And I was listening to a podcast about the history of it as I was building it, and it sounds mad, basically. He was obsessed with romantic fairy tale images, and this castle was just something that was his magnum opus. And then the Nazis took it on and used it to store all the paintings they pinched, basically, for a period. And it survived 2 world wars, this castle did. Then obviously Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was filmed there. And then we went there. Those are the kind of major...
Those are the big 3.
Historical highlights. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The war, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, you.
Yeah.
But I found myself getting to the end of this build thinking, this looks really good. Like, it has Easter eggs in it. Sorry, Sam, I know you've not had any this year, but it has Easter eggs in it where, as you're going through the book, it gives you little facts about this particular bit of the building. So I built, like, the little throne room for Ludwig. And there's me thinking, oh, great, that'll be a lovely thing for me to show other people when I lift the lid off. Oh, no, you can't do that. It's just for you to know as you build. And then you build around it. Like, there's a grotto in there of little caves, like little cave pieces. They're in there. You'll never see those. They are covered with that there. And I find that absolutely fascinating as a process, that it's not thinking about the end of it. It's thinking about that whole experience of you going through all the different stages of building it. So it almost becomes like we had that experience of the castle just suddenly appearing as we went round each twist and turn in the path, say, for example.
Is that and you may not know the answer to this question, but is that a quality of that particular Lego series, being that understanding a building as you're constructing it, so you're not like learning through play, or is that a reflection of the madness upon which that particular castle was built?
I think it's very much reflective of this architecture line that Lego do. So, for example, their Great Pyramid of Giza, you actually, because the Pyramid of Giza, it wasn't just that stone that you see now. It had this kind of limestone kind of layer on the top of it, almost like icing on a cake. So it was white, the pyramid was, with this kind of gold capstone at the top, and that obviously eroded away. But you build the original, and then you can lift off the layer and see what it looked like underneath. But within that, you build the tomb, which I don't think you actually end up seeing in the final version of it. It's something you do as you do it, almost, and not to the same degree, but as it was built back then, a lot quicker, obviously. But I find that absolutely fascinating, and I've come to this conclusion that actually I'm going to keep this out, because I just can't stop looking at it. And there's something about it being a small building as opposed to, like, I've got the Lego 1989 Batmobile, which it feels wrong. It just been sat there. It feels like it should be moving around. But there's something about an edifice, this building here, which doesn't take up too much table space, like, less than a piece of A3 paper. It just feels really nice. Really nice.
This is how it begins.
Where will you place it on display?
Yeah. Toilet?
Oh no, I've lost another one. A thing I wanted to talk about, which I discovered recently, I found really, really cool, is this thing called StartPlaying.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the last 6 months, I've tried to get an RPG off the ground, and just for whatever reason, it hasn't happened. 6 months, it just hasn't happened. And I thought, right, I could either just sit there going, oh, well, one day it'll happen, etc., or I could just do something about it. And I was really keen to play an RPG, and I was thinking, I wonder if there is a facility out there where I can just join an RPG. But it would have to be a one-shot, because I don't know if I can commit with my work hours wise. I don't really want to travel far. Is this something I can do online? And I found this website called StartPlaying, where essentially you go, okay, when you're available, put in your dates, what you're looking for, one shot, campaign, etc. And you get a list of any upcoming games. How many slots are left? Do you want to join? So I created an account. This is all free. And I joined a Monster of the Week one shot session, which we did last year. At Aircon, all of us. And, you pay a small amount of money, and then you get into this kind of lovely bit of interim beforehand where you're part of a little message group of the people taking part in this particular session. You're talking about which playbooks you're going to use, that kind of thing. And I turned up last night and did this on Zoom, and I had a fantastic GM called Anya, and I really learnt a lot from them, where they took you through all the kind of unloading process where, the ethical framework of it all, because obviously they don't know me, I don't know them, and that's something I'd not really done before, because I kind of knew everyone's sensibilities more or less before I started playing, but I learned a lot through that process. And Anya's in Germany. I had this other person who was another player in the UK, another one in America, and the four of us did this session together on Discord, and it was amazing. It was generally really, really good. And I just really wanted to talk about that as a facility. How cool that is if you want to just jump onto an RPG.
That is fantastic. Could I just ask, you said there was like a small payment. Who's that going? Is that going to the website? Is that going to Anya, who is obviously running it? What's that element kind of contributing towards?
That's a good question, Dan. I actually don't know what the cost breakdown of that is, because the facility for playing is all done through Discord and Anya's Discord server, which is incredibly comprehensive. It's amazing. So StartPlaying is almost like that facility. I don't know if you've ever used Meetup at all. Yeah, I used it to find like walking groups during lockdown. It's a little bit like that, where Meetup gets a fee of some sort, or I think the account holders up there, they have to pay Meetup like a certain fee for long-term usage of it. And so my walking group, we'd each chuck in £1 or so to help the organisers with their Meetup account. So I don't know how the cost breakdown with this, I must admit, but it's really, really useful because like you leave reviews for your GMs. There's these really useful tags which tell you the kinds of things how they operate as a GM typically. For example, whether they follow, say, for example, the rule of cool, the kind of no-goes, the kind of topics, the kind of systems they're familiar with. And you see all the reviews of other players who've played with them as well in the past. And for those who are a bit like me, who's like, I don't know anyone here, I'm sticking my toe in the water, I'm just stepping up and joining an RPG group I've never met any of these people before. It was really, really lovely. It was very, very welcoming and very intuitive. And maybe that's because Anya was just such a brilliant GM who contacted me as soon as I, registered, saying, fill in this survey here. Have you got any questions? Just get in touch here. And they were absolutely brilliant. But I'm definitely going to do it again because there's tons on there. Really, really good.
What do you think you'll bring from it into your own sort of RPG? As you said, running an RPG is really, really difficult. You're amazing at it, a really, really talented DM. But the one advantage you've got is that you know us, you know our sensibilities, you know what we're kind of comfortable with, you know how you can kind of push and pull at the right moments and control that rhythm and flow and understanding as a game's going on. So what did you sort of learn from that as the environment? Because I think I picked a lot of stuff up through when we've done sessions at Aircon in terms of how they run it and how well the DMs run it in terms of getting us going. But what did you see as part of that session that you thought could really help you as a DM?
Yeah, so for me it was that onboarding. Like that was a big wake up call for me because I had like illusions of running my own RPG, say at somewhere like Aircon. But I'm so glad I've had this experience because when you're playing with someone who's such a really well experienced GM as Anya, just that process of like the survey, the ethical kind of the framework they were adopting, I mean the clarity and transparency and the level of organisation was so clear. And there'll be some people listening to this perhaps who have never played with anyone RPG-wise outside of their own group, who may be kind of quite dismissive of this. But what I found was because we'd all done this kind of onboarding beforehand, I felt so free. Like I felt really confident. Anya had compiled a table which was in the chat bar at the top. It didn't say who had put what, etc. of the... apologies if I get this wrong. It was something like the red, the yellows, and the greys. So the greys is stuff you're ambiguous about. Yellow is like up until a point, you're okay with that. Red is like a no-go. That's your hard line, say, for example. Yeah. And they also included theirs there as well. But it was all within this list. So all the four of us were represented in this list. There was no sense of, this is what such and such thinks. This is what such and such has put here. And to just have that there, it really felt free. There was none of this sense of like, oh my gosh, I can't say this or I can't do this because I'm worried about inadvertently putting my foot in it. Whereas here it felt incredibly freeing, and like the 4 hours or so we played just flew by. It was 3 to 4 hours, sorry, I should say. It flew by, and it felt fun. It felt just as fun as when we do it, and I think it really helps for those out there who are really interested in RPGs, but I've seen and watched other people play them, and you're wishing, I want to do that, but I don't have a group of people around here, and I'm a bit anxious about going to my local board game shop and just signing up for one. I can highly recommend this because they make it very clear if a session is for beginners.
Okay.
Which
fine.
is brilliant.
Yeah.
So It, honestly, I would genuinely, I'm definitely going to do this again, because it was just so much fun.
Just to go in a slightly different direction. So we've got these kind of these new hotness for us, these new things that we're just experiencing. I've been watching something I probably started watching more than 20 years ago.
Okay.
And it has come back. And that thing is Scrubs. So
Ooh.
So Scrubs is a comedy show that came out originally in 2001 by Bill Lawrence, who kind of today people know him as the kind of the guy behind Ted Lasso and Shrinking. He'd done different stuff like Spin City back in the day before Scrubs. I used to really like that as well.
Yeah.
But Scrubs was kind of his big show that came out. I used to really love Scrubs. I thought it was a fantastic comedy. It was one of those things that I always used to come back to. Like, I'd be at uni, I had all the DVDs and you could watch them all. I think it ran for like 6 or 7. I think it ran for 7 series or 8 series, and then they had a medical school series, which we don't talk about.
It was all right.
The medical school series was awful, Chris. It was terrible.
I think remember.
In my mind, it was terrible. So that ran until about 2010, and it's come back. Like they announced it last year, and they've brought it back on Disney Plus. I think for about 10 episodes. I think this series is. There's been lots of kind of reboots of different stuff and looking back and trying to use that nostalgia to kind of get viewers in. And it definitely seemed that they were doing that with Scrubs and try to just kind of capture that old magic. And I'm really happy to say that I do really think they have captured that old magic, because I watched all the series of Scrubs, and the way I've always looked at Scrubs is it slowly changed over the course of its life in its original run. It started off as kind of like a comedic drama with a few wacky elements. And by the end of it, it was a wacky comedy with the occasional dramatic element. And that kind of switch over the course of its life kind of changed how I viewed it. By the end of it, I was like, I'm not really enjoying it as much, because what I want that core of that drama rather than it just be wacky thing, wacky thing, wacky thing. And what I've really enjoyed about coming back to this new series of Scrubs is they seem to have understood that, and it feels like it's gone back to its roots. It feels like this is looking at as a medical drama with these zany, wacky elements to it. So you do still have JD's voiceover happening. You do still have kind of his fantasy sequences where he kind of drifts off in his own mind and then makes jokes around that. They do have all these silly elements to it. Those are all still there. Those are very, very Scrubs. But you do then have this core, like there's a wonderful moment in the very first episode where, through a group of reasons, the character of JD, played by Zach Braff, and I should say the entire cast pretty much, the only notable person as yet that I've not seen is the janitor. So the janitor hasn't been in any of the episodes that I've watched. I don't know if there's any plan to bring him back, but pretty much I think everyone else you would expect to see has returned, which is great. And they all are all on top form. They've all captured their characters again. They don't feel forced. They don't feel stereotyped or anything like that. But through a turn of events, JD finds himself back at the old hospital with the old friends there, and he's engaging with some of his friends, and he finds that his best friend Turk is struggling. He's struggling with people who are just not looking after themselves, and he has to just deal with people who are dying and all that stuff. And it's really taken a toll on him as a doctor and trying to deal with people. And this is the kind of stuff that used to happen at the start of Scrubs, where you'd see doctors struggling with being doctors, struggling with making the decisions within that environment. There's a lot of talk about the US medical system and how that works and how people can't afford medication and things like that, and talking about these serious issues. So then when you can, it allows you to then juxtapose it with the comedy, with the jokes, with the zaniness, it does manage to still work without it making them feel frivolous. And I think that's the kind of the sweet spot that Scrubs can hit, that in its original run it started to miss. It started to just become that zany thing, and every now and then go, oh, we need to do something dramatic, here's a dramatic scene, and they throw that at the screen. But this series very much seems to have found that sweet spot again, and is all the better for it.
I remember being a big fan of Scrubs, and I remember us used to quote Scrubs a lot whilst we were at university, and we had a great time. But there's a big reason why I've stayed away from watching the Scrubs reboot, is for 7 seasons or so, however long it was, no one can remember. One of the big through lines of Scrubs was, when are you going to grow up, JD? Like, when are you going to stop monkeying around and become the doctor that you're meant to be? So how does this series then contend with that when they're meant to be however X amount years older, taking on more responsibility probably in the hospital, but yet they're still goofing around and being silly and stuff like that. That for me felt like a big hurdle I didn't know how they were going to contend with when they spent however many series already contending with the fact that, you know, JD was trying to grow up.
You've asked a question that is basically I can't answer it because it's such a big spoiler.
Oh. Okay, fair enough.
Because I would say I can say is they're not bringing it back to be here's a couple of goofy interns trying to become doctors, like, and obviously you can't because of the nature of what's happened in the past, but they're not trying to do that. There are a new batch of interns that they have in there because it is still a teaching hospital. They have a new batch of interns, and I think if anything that's where it struggles a bit. But I think if it was going to struggle anywhere, that was where it's going to be, because you've got a new group of people who we don't know, who we don't really care about, because we've got our group of characters that we know and love. So without giving away the necessary spoilers, they are all in a very different place. They all now are fully fledged, experienced doctors. Like Turk is the chief of surgery at the hospital. Like
right.
That okay. They aren't those people. They can still be silly, and they are still silly, and they are silly with each other and the way they act. But when it comes to medicine and medical, they are now the experienced people. They are the ones who are teaching all of the interns, that kind of thing. So there is a very different element to that. So that if that's a worry of yours, I wouldn't worry about that.
So tune in next time to find out which Scrubs character Pete ends up being, and if it's interesting. As always, thanks so much for listening. If you'd like more of us, there is more that you can have. Take it. Go to Instagram at StayingInPod. You can also see our website, stayinginpodcast.com. And you can find us on Board Game Geek and Steam, where we have curated pages which we fill and cram full of the board games and video games that we talk about on the shows sometimes. And when the feeling takes him, Chris also curates several Spotify playlists which cover lots of different genres and timbres and... Is there another buzzword? Genres, timbres, and...
Ombres?
Ombres. So do whatever takes your fancy. You can go to... the best place to look at is at the notes in the show, because that's the easiest way to find them. And yeah, that about does us for another edition of this wonderful, wonderful thing. Take care.